So a week ago, I released a video titled 24 Hours in Edinburgh, and in that video, I showed a bunch of the images that I took while we were in Scotland, but the majority of our trip we actually spent in England. And so in today's video, I want to show you a bunch of the images that I took using the Fujifilm GFX 50S2 during our time in England. So this video is like fully unscripted. I just wanted to turn on the camera, have a pretty candid video about the camera, the photos, and stuff. And so if you see me looking down to my right, it's because I have my iPad right here with all of the images that I'll be sharing in this video. So the very beginning of the trip, I don't actually have any images that I took using the Fujifilm, and that's because I was pretty much shooting with my Leica M2. I love this camera, but the M2 to me is just, it's one of my favorite cameras. It's probably actually my favorite camera I've ever owned. Something about using that camera is, I don't know, really inspiring, and it's really, really fun to use. So nothing against this camera, it's just I love my M2. And because of that, the first, I don't know, 2.5, maybe even 3 days of the trip, I have no images that I took on this camera. Every single one was taken on the M2. And that's until I actually dropped my M2 on the ground. It barely hit the ground. I caught it with my elbow, but it still hit hard enough that it knocked the alignment of the rangefinder out, and so I couldn't really use it for the rest of the trip. But it kind of worked out well because once we got back from Scotland, the remaining time that we had in England, the weather was just terrible. It was pretty much raining the remaining 5 or 6 days, and so I couldn't really shoot with that camera anyways. And so that's when I pulled out the GFX 50S2 to come to the rescue since my M2 was bricked. And yeah, I was able to take some really good photos with it. Scotland was amazing. I'm really, really proud of all of the images that I was able to take while we were there. And I absolutely love the combination of the 35-70 and the 50S2. I used to own an original 50S, and as much as I love that camera, I just really wanted to upgrade to the 50S2 solely because of the image stabilized sensor. I found that with my original 50S, I didn't really like shooting below 1/125th of a second. And even then, you know, I would still get blurry images depending on what lens I had on the camera. So having a camera with in-body image stabilization is a huge win in my opinion. I really like all the images that I was able to take in Scotland. The camera obviously performed really, really well. I love the sensor that's on this camera. It's one of my favorite sensors I think I've ever used. It just responds really well to the way that I like editing my photos. And speaking of editing my photos, all of the images were edited using my preset pack that I've created. I'm not trying to be like that guy, but I did make presets for myself because I like having a consistent look amongst all of my images. So if you are interested, I will leave a link in the card up here as well as in the description below. Moving on from all these Scotland images, let's move back into the UK. So I decided to wake up early and go on a little walk by myself. This is a situation that I would not have been able to use the Leica M2 in because it was pouring down rain the entire time. But what was really great about the 50S2 is that it has weather sealing, so the camera got a little bit wet. It got actually pretty wet. I trusted the weather sealing, and I mean, it's fine, but it was a little bit scary because that was the first time I've ever had a camera out in rainy conditions, and like I said, it did great. The pictures, they're fine. You know, I don't think they're bad images by any means. They're not my favorite images that I've ever taken, but it was really nice to be able to go out and walk by myself and just kind of explore the neighborhood around the area that we were staying at. In this next part, we took a bus to this market. I cannot for the life of me remember what it was called off the top of my head. I'll put it on the screen right now. I think it was like the Borough Market or something, but I really like all the images that I took here. Now, one thing about this lens is it is a variable aperture lens. It goes from 4.5 to 5.6, which, you know, obviously isn't the fastest. But I find that the sensor does a really, really good job in low light. And so a lot of these images were shot at, you know, 400 to 3200 ISO. But the images look really, really good in my opinion. Now, if I'm being honest, as great of a lens as this isn't my dream lens for the system. Ideally, I would have the 55mm f1.7 that Fujifilm makes. I actually did reach out to Fujifilm about just testing out that lens, so hopefully, fingers crossed, they see my message and I can test it out. But yeah, I think this is a great lens. The 55 is my all-time dream lens for sure. But yeah, with all that being said, I think the camera still did a great job in the darker and lower light situations that we had in here. Obviously, there was a bunch of sunlight out, but it was overcast. But there are a lot of sections of the market that are covered, and so I did have to pump up my ISO in a bunch of situations. But as you can see from the images, none of them look bad by any means. I think they look great. After the market, we had to go shopping, so we took a train to this area where it started pouring down rain on us. I took a couple photos, and then we made our way back to my aunt's house. Now for the section of the video that I'm most excited about, all the images that I took at Goodwood. For those that might not know, Goodwood is, I guess they have two different shows. They have the Goodwood Revival, which is the one that we went to, and then the Goodwood Festival of Speed. For those that might not know, Goodwood Revival is like a themed event where all the attendees are encouraged to wear 40s, 50s, and 60s themed outfits. All the cars that compete in races are also from the 40s and 50s and 60s. So it's a really cool, almost like huge costume party where you get to see some beautiful classic cars. This is the second year in a row that I've been able to go. My aunt has been so gracious enough to fly out myself and my fiance the past 2 years to go to this event, and I absolutely love it. I would definitely consider myself a car guy, so being able to go out and see these beautiful old cars race has been such a special experience. So this year, I obviously brought a digital medium format camera, but last year I only brought film cameras. I had my Nikon F3, and then I also had my Mamiya 7, so a film medium format camera. I'll throw up some of my favorite images that I took last year on film. Most of the morning it was pouring down rain, so we kind of just took shelter for a little bit before the weather started clearing up. Once the weather had cleared up, we were able to really start exploring. We went to the paddocks where all the race cars are stored before they actually get ready to start racing. I took a bunch of photos that I'm really proud of, but my favorite was this one I took of this older man. And I think this just goes to show that the autofocus that's found in these 50 megapixel sensors that have only contrast-based autofocus is more than good enough for so many scenes. This older gentleman was walking towards me. I was able to pick up my camera, press the button, and shoot, and as you can see, it is tack sharp on his face. I continued staying in this area. I think it would be considered camping, where I kind of just like stood in a corner, and anytime I would see something, I'd walk up, take a picture, go back to my area, walk up, take a picture, go back to my area. And I was there for probably 30-ish minutes. I'm someone that's like obsessed with photography. I feel like there are also a lot of other people that are like that. And so I could have been here literally all day, just standing in a couple areas and taking pictures of things that interested me. And that's essentially what I did for a lot of the day once the weather cleared up at Goodwood. We continued exploring a couple of the other paddocks as we made our way to the airfield. On our way back, I saw this beautiful C2 Corvette, and I took this photo, which is one of my favorite images of the day. My shutter speed, as you can see, was pretty slow on this shot, and I really like the effect that it gave to the image. It almost gives me the feel that the image has more character because there is a little bit of that motion blur, as opposed to everything in the image being sharp. Unfortunately, we were just at Goodwood for a day, so we had to make our way back to London. And that's it. That's pretty much all the images that I took using the Fujifilm GFX 50S2 and the 35-70 in London. I've already said this a couple times during this video, but I do genuinely love this camera. I've used a bunch of cameras in the past, but there's just something special about the sensor that's in this camera. It just responds so well to the way that I edit my photos. As you can see from the photos, I definitely have a bit of a stylized look to my images. I'm definitely editing the photos a lot, and this camera can really hold up to all of those edits. Again, like I said earlier in the video, I did edit all of these photos using the preset pack that I created called Aurora Presets. Again, if you are interested, that link will be in the description. There will also be a link to a video about how I use those presets if you're interested in seeing them kind of more in action. So what do you guys think of all of the images? Please feel free to let me know in the description below. If you guys like this video, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. It does help me out a lot. Also, if you'd like this video, please consider checking out more of the videos on my channel. And if you'd like to check out more of my work not on YouTube, I will leave my Instagram on the screen right now, as well as a link to my Instagram and my website down in the description below. And I think on that note, I'm going to end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have a ton of videos planned, so please consider subscribing so you know when those videos come out. And yeah, thank you guys again so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.